By the early 13th century, the Mongols had carved out an empire that stretched from the steppes of Asia to the gates of Europe. Yet, one jewel remained unconquered: the legendary city of Baghdad. Baghdad, the cultural and intellectual heart of the Islamic world, flourished as a beacon of knowledge and enlightenment. Its libraries boasted volumes of wisdom from every corner of the known world. The city has been under the control of Abbasid Caliphate since 8th century. It has been the economic hub of the Muslim world as it filled up a lot of wealth, medicines, and libraries. The Mongols had now eyes on this city, its wealth and dignity. By the order of his big brother and the Mongol Khagan, Mongol Khan, he was given the duty of making the Persian side part of Mongol territory. In 1257, Hulagu and Chinese commander Hulagu Khan set out on this mission with what's said to be the largest army fielded on ground, with more than 150,000 men that will fight against the Abbasid. January 29, 1258, the Mongol army has surrounded the city from all sides. Expected the Caliph to surrender the city, but he refused to do so. The city defenders was 20,000 to 30,000 in numbers against the giant army of Mongols. Hulagu Khan sent an envoy to the Caliph for peaceful surrender of city and prevent it from destruction. The Mongol envoy says, "Great Khan Hulagu sends his greetings, noble Caliph. He offers you a chance to spare your city from destruction. Surrender peacefully, and your people will be spared." The Caliph replied, "I am the ruler appointed by Allah to lead this city. We will not yield to the likes of invaders. Baghdad will never bow to the Mongols." The envoy further says, "Your defiance is understandable, but consider the fate of your people. The Mongol horde is unstoppable. Surrender now, and your city may yet be spared from the ravages of war." The Caliph replied, "We trust in the protection of Allah. We will not submit to the tyranny of Genghis Khan's descendants. Our faith is our shield, and our walls are our fortress." After this tense conversation, the war became evident. Losing his patience, Hulagu consulted his advisors on the practicalities of attacking Baghdad. The astronomer Husam al-Din prophesied doom. Hulagu then turned to the polymath Nasir al-Din al-Tusi, who simply replied that none of these disasters would happen. Hulagu goes with option of Nasir, and choose attacking on Baghdad. They cannot attack the city directly as it was heavily protected by its walls as well as its guards. They need some internal help, which has been provided by one of the vizier of Abbasid. His name was Ibn al-Alqami, who held a significant power in the Caliphate. Reports of him being open conversation with Hulagu Khan directly and encouraged him to attack the city. There is other speculations around him as well, which says that he was giving information about the weakest parts of the city walls. These speculations of betrayal might be due to his faith from different sect of Shi'ism. In February 1258, the Mongol began advancement into the city and started throwing rocks with catapults to breach the walls. The Caliph could easily raise a big defense army with wealth he kept, but he didn't do it, and will face the consequences. On February 1st, the Mongols tried to break into the southeast Ajami Tower near Hulagu's camp but were pushed back. However, they managed to breach the walls over the next 2 days and take control of the east battlements by February 4th. The Dawatar, sensing defeat, tried to escape down the Tigris River, but Hulagu's plans stopped him, causing the loss of 3 ships, and he was forced back into the city. The Caliph now wants negotiation with Hulagu, as he sent envoys towards the Mongol prince, but it was too late and Hulagu Khan wasn't ready for any type of further conversation. On February 7th, many unarmed soldiers and civilians came out of the city, hoping they would be spared and permitted to live in Syria. However, they were separated into groups and killed instead. With few choices left, al-Mustasim got ready to give up. He sent an embassy led by his son and successor Ahmed to negotiate safety for his family. On February 10th, the Caliph surrendered, bringing his family and 3,000 important people. Hulagu told al-Mustasim to tell the city's people to leave after putting down their weapons. Those who followed were killed. The Caliph and his family stayed close to Kibuka's troops near the southern gate. On February 13th, the sack of Baghdad begun. The Mongol began weeks of looting, raping and killings. They have killed an estimated of 1.6 million people, while 400,000 who had taken shelter underground, were drowned in the water and make sure no one remains alive. The library in the city, which filled up with knowledge, had been burned to ground. The water Dujla River turns black due to the ink and ashes of the books. While on the request of his wife Dokuz Khatun, who was a Christian, the Christians as well as Sayyids, scholars, and merchants who traded with Mongols had interceded, were deemed worthy and were instructed to mark their doors so their houses would be spared. After 2 days of plundering, on February 15, Hulagu went to the caliphal palace and pressured al-Mustasim to reveal his treasures. Some of it was shared among commanders like Khan, but most was loaded onto wagons and sent either to Monkey in Karakorum or to Shahi Island in Azerbaijan, where Hulagu would be buried. Hulagu gave the palace to Makika to use as a Christian church, and then he hosted a mocking banquet, pretending to be the caliph's host. Hulagu then turned to the caliph and set a golden tray before the caliph and said, "Eat." The caliph answers, "It is not edible." "Then why did you keep it," asked the Khan, "and not give it to your soldiers? And why did you not make these iron doors into arrowheads and come to the bank of the river so that I might not have been able to cross it?" "Such," replied the caliph, "was God's will." "What will befall you," said the Khan, "is also God's will." There are multiple speculations about the death of the caliph. Marco Polo, the Venetian merchant in the court of Kublai Khan, says that the caliph was kept in prison without any food, and that starvation takes the life of the caliph. Other speculation says that Hulagu Khan was confused on how to give death to the caliph. To avoid spilling a royal's blood, a great taboo for the Mongols, the caliph was wrapped in a rolled-up carpet and trampled to death by horses. No matter what's the method, Hulagu Khan chose for the death of caliph, but at the end he was given a terrible and horrifying death that no one wishes. With that, the chapter of the Muslim Caliphate has been closed, and all hard works of the scholars, scientists and other professionals had been vanished. Baghdad, and the Muslim world never recovered from that wound and destruction. All the scientific advancements, new inventions has been stopped, and never starts even after passing of 8 centuries. On March 8, Hulagu left the area, traveling northwards to Hamadan and then Azerbaijan, where he remained for a year. On February 8, 1265, Hulagu Khan met with horrific ending, after his own horse puts him into death, who gets terrified and ticked the head of Hulagu with rocks, and he was unrecognizable after the horse stops.